The U.S. president unexpectedly welcomed the Iraqi Prime Minister during a sensitive time. Israel stayed up all night before Iran's unprecedented airstrike. Iran revealed the reason for seizing cargo ships in the strategic strait. U.S. President receives Iraqi Prime Minister when the Middle East is tight as a string. The head of the Iraqi government arrived in the U.S. capital when security concerns increased sharply in an area that already had too much tension. U.S. President Joe Biden is expected to host the head of the Iraqi government this week and participate in negotiations amid rising tensions across the Middle East due to the war in Gaza, which has lasted more than 6 months. And Iran's unprecedented retaliatory attack on Israel over the weekend. At the time, Iran fired a series of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, and missiles at Israel on April 13. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed al-Sudani was scheduled to leave for Washington, D.C. on a 7-day official visit. A statement from Mr. al-Sudani's office on April 13 confirmed his departure from Baghdad. During his first visit to the White House as Prime Minister of Iraq, Mr. al-Sudani is expected to meet President Biden in the Oval Office on April 15. The Iraqi leader plans to talk with American businesses, the Iraqi community and consulting organizations in Washington, D.C., before going to Houston to discuss cooperation with U.S. energy companies. Iran has launched an unprecedented military campaign against Israeli territory, exposing the years-long silent war between the two countries, as well as increasing the risk of a broader conflict erupting in China. Winter. The attack began at around 11 p.m. on April 13, Israel time, and lasted several hours. Contradictory statement. According to the Israeli military, Iran launched a total of more than 300 missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, towards Israeli territory. The overnight attack, which Tehran dubbed Operation Real Commitment, marked the first time Iran has attacked Israeli territory even though the two countries have been at war with each other for decades. Iran announced that this was a response to the airstrike that they believed Israel carried out on Tehran's diplomatic facility in Damascus, Syrian capital, on April 1, killing 7 Iranian officers, including 2 generals. Israel has never admitted or denied that it was behind this attack. Speaking on Iranian television on April 14, Chief of Staff of the Iranian Armed Forces Mohammed said they had completed all goals in the campaign to attack Israel, AFP reported. According to Mr. Bagheri, Iran's attack targeted an intelligence center and an air base that Tehran said was the departure point for Israeli F-35s participating in the airstrike in Damascus. The general said both locations were destroyed and could not continue to operate. But on social network X, Israeli military spokesman Avichai Adri said they had successfully intercepted 99% of missiles and UAVs from Iran. According to Mr. Adri, all about 170 UAVs and more than 30 cruise missiles were intercepted by Israel outside the country's borders. A very small number of more than 120 ballistic missiles entered Israeli territory and caused minor damage to the Nevatim air base in the south of the country. CNN quoted 2 U.S. officials revealing that the U.S. military has stopped more than 70 UAVs and at least 3 ballistic missiles. In addition, British and Jordanian forces are said to also participate in this effort, according to The Guardian. According to British maritime security company Ambri, Iran's allies in the region also participated in the attack. Houthi forces in Yemen launched UAVs into Israeli territory, while Hezbollah forces in Lebanon announced they had fired missiles at Israeli positions in the Golan Heights. Latest escalation. Iran's attack marks a new escalation in the confrontation between Iran and its proxy forces in the region on the one hand, and Israel and its allies, including the United States, on the other. As of the morning of April 14, Israel time, Israeli officials said no decision had been made on Israel's response after Iran's attack and that this issue would be discussed in a meeting of the War Cabinet. However, Israeli warplanes reportedly bombed Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon. Yesterday's Hong-Kong Times newspaper quoted analysts that Iran's retaliation was mainly due to pressure from the domestic people, rather than Tehran not wanting to be dragged into a large-scale conflict or war. Yesterday, Iran's delegation to the UN said that this attack could be considered the end and called on Israel not to respond. Iran's Chief of General Staff Mohammed also announced that there were no plans to continue, although he warned that he would counterattack much stronger if Israel took further action. U.S. President Joe Biden also hinted at avoiding further escalation, telling Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that Israel won by preventing most of the attack and affirming that Washington would not participate or support if Tel Aviv responded to Tehran. According to CNN, a major conflict between Israel and Iran is something the U.S. does not want because of the risk of being forced to get involved. From a global strategic perspective, the U.S. does not want to send too many resources to the Middle East because this will affect aid to Ukraine in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, as well as Washington's strategic plan in Asia. Thailand. Bin Duong, Hong Kong Times newspaper quoted an expert. On the brink of war, neither side wants it. Tel Aviv's decision to react now depends on Israel's three-member war cabinet, including Prime Minister Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Mr. Benny Gantz. According to The Guardian, there are concerns that Prime Minister Netanyahu, who has long wanted to destroy Iran's nuclear facilities, may take this opportunity to join with belligerent figures to carry out that intention. Regarding this issue, Israel requested an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council at 4 p.m. on April 14, U.S. time, which means that if Israel responds, it will hardly take place before that time. In a phone call with Pentagon leaders, Mr. Gallant said Israel was prepared for the risk of further attacks, without mentioning anything about a response. The Atlantic Council Research Institute, USA, quoted many experts on the Middle East as asserting that Iran's attack has pushed the region to the brink of a broader war, but it is a war that is almost impossible. Who wants when America, Arab countries, and even Hezbollah forces in Lebanon all want to avoid widespread conflict during the past 6 months of war between Hamas and Israel? The best development that all sides can accept is that Israel carries out a limited counterattack in Iran without causing further reaction, because the damage from Tehran's April 14 attack is believed to be very limited. Washington has signaled it does not want the conflict to continue to spread. In a phone call with Prime Minister Netanyahu after Iran's attack, President Biden emphasized his unwavering support for Israel but also clarified his stance that the U.S. will not participate in any military action. Any action against Iran, according to the White House. Mr. Biden also said he would convene a meeting with leaders in the G7 group on April 14 to discuss a unified diplomatic response to Iran. Iran accused the Portuguese-flagged cargo ship MSC Ares of violating maritime laws and having connections with Israel, so it was seized. Iran always tries to create a safe maritime transport environment through the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf. The ship was redirected into Iranian territorial waters because they violated maritime laws and did not respond to calls from Iranian officials. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Nasser Kanani on April 15 provided information about the seizure of the MSC Ares ship. Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian announced that he would allow Indian officials to visit 17 sailors who are citizens of this country on the MSC Ares. He added that sending the ship into Iranian territorial waters was a necessary action to serve the investigation. The MSC Ares was seized on April 13 by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, in the waters between the United Arab Emirates, UAE, and Iran. The captured location is 92 kilometers northeast of the UAE city of Fujairah, near the Strait of Hormuz. IRNA posted a video showing an IRGC helicopter flying above the MSC Ares for special forces to rappel down. Israeli Foreign Minister Israel Katz called this an act of piracy, a violation of international law, and called for sanctions against Tehran. The ship MSC Ares carries the Portuguese flag and is chartered by the international shipping company MSC from Gordel Shipping, a subsidiary of Zodiac Maritime. Israeli businessman Eyal Ofer has shares in the company Zodiac Maritime. MSC confirmed that the Ares ship was captured and the company is contacting relevant parties to ensure the safety of the 25 sailors. The ship capture took place not long after the IRGC's maritime operations leader mentioned the possibility of blocking the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israel. The Strait of Hormuz is located between Iran and Oman, with the narrowest section about 33 kilometers, and is the gateway to the Gulf and the Indian Ocean. About 1/5 of the world's crude oil and petrochemical products pass through the strait, making the area one of the world's most important maritime arteries.